Disclaimer. To the Pharisees and Karens out there.
How dare you!
All guests on this show do not reflect the opinions of the host. The purpose of this show is to have interesting conversations, stretch our minds, and grow.
Not what we want!
If you are looking for an echo chamber, viewer and listener discretion
is advised.
You talk about extreme.
What is happening and what is up? Hold out your glass, because we're about to fill it up.
Torches high.
Look at it from a different perspective.
Hey, what is happening and what is up? Hold out your glass, because I am about to fill it up. Welcome to the Prometheus Lens Podcast, the place where the conversations are always enlightening. I'm your host, Justin, and here we like to use the allegory of the Prometheus lens to take a second look at everything. Hey guys, if you're new to the channel, welcome to the hero's journey. Be sure and hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, hey, and flick that bell. That way you don't miss a single journey. And hey, be sure to check out this banner below. That's all of our social medias. Check us out on our various platforms. That would be much, much appreciated. Hey guys, if you're listening on Apple or Spotify, hey, I know up front ads suck. But for $4 a month, you can bypass those ads and you can get an ad-free listening experience. Okay. Now, with all the business out of the way, hey, let's dive into the meat of the matter, guys. I got a really great episode for you guys today. I got my brother from another mother. I got Ryan Pitterson with us today, and this is a guy that I was talking pre-roll. I was like, this is a man that I feel like he's an old high school buddy. We can talk for at least an hour pre-roll before we even hit record, and this was no exception today. So, Ryan, man, it's been probably about close to a year since I've had you on, man. I've missed you, brother. Thanks for coming back.
Hey, my brother, thanks for having me on. I appreciate it. And like you said, man, it's like we don't miss a beat. So I'm super, super hyped for this discussion.
Well, just for those that have been living under a rock and maybe not familiar with you and what you do and who you are, just give those people a catch up.
Absolutely. So I'm an author, researcher, of course, a Christian, husband, father, former rapper, many different things, but mainly my two books were Judgment of the Nephilim and The Final Nephilim. So I was really digging into all things Genesis 6, Nephilim, fallen angels, end times, Antichrist. And, I really just love going into aspects of the Bible and the supernatural that the church doesn't go to and people don't like to go to. I want to be, that's where I live. So, I make books, I make documentaries as well, and hard at work for a new launch of I'm excited for a lot of new projects this year in 2025.
Man, that's awesome. Hey, you learn something new every day, man. We've been friends and talking for but 3.5 years now. I never knew you were a rapper, bro.
Yeah. Back in my much younger days, I grew up in New York, so I was, the birthplace of hip hop and breakdancing. So, when I say younger days, I mean like 12, 13 years old.
I'm about to say you got to send me some tracks, man.
Yeah, well, I still got them.
Yeah, I'm gonna hold you to it.
Oh yeah, I got them.
That's sweet. Well, let everybody know, like, what's the new project, man. Can we get a little sneak peek? What have you been working on?
Absolutely. So right now, my next book is really focusing on the ancient earth, the gap theory, the idea that between Genesis 1:1 and Genesis 1:2, there's a whole history before Adam and Eve. And who does this involve? This primarily involves the angels. When we look at questions like, what, the fall, when did Satan fall? When did any of the fallen angels, turn evil and rebel against God, right? We don't find these things in the first chapter of Genesis. So I really this is really a deep dive to explore what was happening before Adam and Eve were on the earth, and this whole idea of how old is the earth, because, the beauty of the issue of Genesis 6 and the Nephilim is it really, in addition to opening our eyes up to so much of Scripture and God's plan of redemption, it addresses a major stumbling block with the Bible, which is, well, why did God flood the earth and destroy 99% of the global population? And why did God wage wars in Canaan? So even in this rebuke, God promises, I'm not going to wipe you out. I'm going to leave my remnant to obviously who worship me, and I'm not going to destroy you outright. So I think he's seeing a vision of the past, that ancient destruction that is being detailed in Genesis 1-2.
And what about that word cities, Ryan? Because I know Derek had talked about, I think it was in Isaiah, and I can't remember if that Hebrew word can also be translated as watchers, or if like a one-letter difference that he thought was a mistranslation, because it says there'll be no more. They'll destroy there'll be no more remnants of cities. But Derek was saying that he thinks that the original said destroy the remnants of the watchers.
With all of the recent changes in the political and financial markets, there has never been a better time than right now to invest in silver and gold. When governments simply print billions of dollars in paper money in hopes of solving financial shortfalls, you know that it is time to buy and hold assets of true and lasting value. Free information is available to you right now by calling 888-747-3309. Whether you are a new investor or you're interested in preserving the value of your retirement accounts, we make it easy for you to make smart decisions for your financial future. The specialists at Cornerstone are here to serve you, work to satisfy your retirement goals, and communicate with respect. Call us right now at 888-747-3309. That's 888-747-3309. Or visit us online at cornerstoneassetmetals.com. That's cornerstoneassetmetals.com.
I highly encourage you. Take some of your 401k, 20-30% of it, and invest into hard, tangible assets that you can hold in your hand that will only increase in value. And be sure to click the link below, and when you go sign up, tell them that Doc Brown from Prometheus Lens sent you. See you guys.
Interesting.
And I can't remember if that was, if that word can also be translated as watchers, or if he was saying that the difference between those two words is like a one-letter difference, and he thought it was like a mistranslation of the scribes. So when you said that, that's why it kind of just clicked in my head, because that would be interesting if that was a same type situation. Because how was that worded in that verse? You said that there was no more cities.
The fruitful place was a wilderness, and all the cities thereof were broken down at the presence of the Lord and by his fierce anger.
The watchers would be broken down. That don't make sense.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. But still very interesting. Very, very interesting. But it still comes back to the same idea, right? A judgment of the watchers, the rebellious sons of God, and everyone who pledged their loyalty to Satan. And so I think that passage is, again, a very dynamic confirmation that what we're looking at is an ancient earth, and that was judged, and that is now being restored in Genesis 1. And God is basically not just restoring the earth, he's changing the order. He's actually changing the power structure in the heavenly realm, because we see the restored earth and obviously light, water, life, vegetation, animals, but then he makes a new race, right? Then he creates humanity and puts us on the earth and creates Adam. And what does he do? He says, we're going to make man in our image. And I believe, many people believe that's an angelic conversation. I believe God is speaking to the Son and the Holy Spirit when he says that we are specifically made in the image of God. I don't believe we're made in the image of the angels, and we see even in Hebrews where it talks about Christ incarnating. It says he took on not the flesh of angels, but of the seed of Abraham, right? So we're kind of like little siblings to the angels, but we're not exactly the same. I believe that idea of being the imago Dei, being in the image of God, is something unique to humanity. And now he gives Adam this dominion over the earth. It's really a transfer of authority, taking it from the fallen angels who rebelled when they were on earth and transferring it to Adam and showing. And then on top of it, he gives him a wife. He gets to have a wife and he gets to have offspring. So now he can create a race to replenish the earth, to refill the earth, and essentially replace the fallen angels. And this is something we see all throughout Scripture, this idea that God is going to remove a rebellious group and transfer what they have to his faithful followers, right? You look even at with the Nephilim, when Joshua is leading the Israelites, and God is speaking to the Israelites. He says he's going to bring them into a land that is not theirs, and put them in buildings that they didn't build. And they're going to have vineyards and farms that they didn't plant. So why? Because he's deposing the Nephilim kings and their kingdoms in the land of Canaan in Israel, and he's going to give it to Israel. So he's giving it to the Israelites. And so this idea of taking from the rebel and giving it to the faithful, I think that's what's taking place with Adam. And now he's been transferred this dominion over the earth. And this, of course, is setting, not only is it showing the fallen angels they can be replaced, the war is against humanity has now begun. Right now, the war is on, because now, of course, Satan's like, well, I got to ruin this guy. If I either kill him, corrupt him, or ruin him to prevent God's plan from coming to pass.
Hey guys, if you'd like to take a deeper dive into this hero's journey, we have an all-access pass that can get you there. With this pass, you get 48 hours early access to the private Facebook group, members-only episodes, and an ad-free listening experience. And if you'd like to just skip the ads and get 48-hour early access, we have another members tier that is only $4 a month. And if you guys are not familiar with Supercast, you are missing out. This is the future of behind the paywall content. Patreon, you have to go to a third-party site to consume your content. And 90% of us are on Spotify, Apple, Podbean, all these others to begin with to consume our content. With Supercast, you sync it up to your favorite player, and it puts the ad-free content and members-only content on a separate feed on your favorite player. So no more logging into third-party sites and hassle to listen to your favorite content. But you can also log into Supercast, and I have videos, blog posts, and other extra features there, very similar to Patreon. Come on over to Supercast and experience the difference. To become a member, head on over to PrometheusLensPodcast.com and follow the members link, or you can go directly to PrometheusLens.supercast.com.
And I've made it easy for you. There's even a link in the description.
Are you a hunter, a hiker, or just an outdoor enthusiast? Well, if you are, you know that good quality gear is hard to come by. And finding all-American made is like finding Bigfoot in the woods. Hence the name of Squatch Survival Gear. Head on over to SquatchSurvivalGear.com. Use the code PLP10 for 10% off store-wide. Well, Ryan, in your opinion, let's have a thought experiment here.
Yep.
Let's just go into the land of speculation, because that's a fun place that I love to go to.
Sure, let's do it.
What does this world look like to you? You know, a lot of us have had our own thought experiments of the Genesis 6 world. You know, the angels coming down, breeding with the daughters of men. Is this a pre-Adamic world, in your opinion? Like this is just straight up sons of God, angels, ruling the earth, or is this, you know, the beta version of Earth we see today, that there might have been humanity? It's just maybe like the beta version, or what kind of world do you envision this to be, and what happened that got so bad that this destruction had to come?
Yeah, I think we see this. You know, I'm going to just talk about two passages that everyone, you know, who dabbles even in the gap theory or is familiar with, but I want to again point out some small details. So I think we see a mixed society. I think that you have, of course, the angels, both righteous and fallen, right? I think they were all righteous to begin with on earth, and using, you know, again, this idea that, you know, angels, they're just a higher, you know, their society is an advanced form of ours. So they have technology. There are vehicles. We see angels with chariots, with horses. So there's technology, there's structure, there's buildings, right? Even God is creating, giving us the blueprints of a building in Revelation, right? The New Jerusalem, its shape, its dimension. So it's not like they're just floating around. I believe they had a physical presence, a physical world, technology, food, agriculture, all those things taking place, but on a much more advanced level. But I think, and then also they also had a divine order and a religious order, right? We see this with Ezekiel 28, and you know, in this address to the king of Tyre, which I believe is an address to Lucifer, where it says that he was in the garden of God, every precious stone was his covering, and it gives those stones, those precious stones that we talked about back in the day, that the high priest wore, that Aaron wore, to, I believe, help divine the will of God. We see those on Lucifer in Ezekiel chapter 28. So he was wearing that in that role. And in terms of what was taking place in the society, we also look at Isaiah 14, which is often quoted, "How art thou fallen from heaven, O Lucifer, son of the morning?" And it goes through his 5 aspirations to, and it's interesting, you know, when you look at what he's saying here, "Thou was in thine heart, I will ascend into heaven," right? So he's aspiring to go up, which I believe means, why? Because he was on earth ruling in the garden of God. It says, "Thou hast been in Eden, the garden of God. I will exalt my throne above the stars of God." I believe he was also in rulership. He says he has a throne, right? Yep. So he's not saying, "I want a throne. I'm going to steal God's throne." He says, "I'm just going to exalt the throne I have above Yahweh's throne." So again, we're seeing kingdom, dominion, order, government, religion. "I will sit also upon the mount of the congregation." Again, there's a congregation, you know, a divine council, all these things in the sides of the north. And then he says, I will send above the heights of the cloud. I'll be like the Most High. But then when he's talking about his judgment, this is something interesting. It says, "Yet," after he says all that, God says, "Yet thou shalt be brought down into hell to the sides of the pit. They that see thee," this is now in hell, "shall look upon thee and consider thee, saying, Is this the man that made the earth to tremble, that did shake kingdoms, that made the world as a wilderness?" Again, we're seeing destroyed the cities thereof, right? This is again hearkening back to Jeremiah. He said he saw all the cities are destroyed. There's no man to be found. But then it says that open not the house of his prisoners. So who is that? Who were his prisoners? You know, and I think again, in terms of speculation, I think that it's very possible that many of his prisoners were hominid type beings, that, you know, predecessors. And I think there's something unique. And I'm going to pull out, there will be some very interesting commentaries from the early centuries, not even the 1800s. I'm talking about in the first and second centuries, about the idea of man being made in the image of God. And was that God saying, now we're going to create this being in our image, as opposed to what was on earth before? And so you're saying, so I think what we're seeing was a society that had 2 classes of beings in the ancient earth. Obviously, the high society was the angelic society, but I think there were also other beings. And I think, again, when you combine this, because I have a chapter that's devoted to the ancient megalithic structures and findings and archaeological findings of these societies, I think people are going to be surprised to see that, again, you can go back hundreds of thousands of years and you're finding jewelry, tools, and all these things, bones of human-like beings that in the modern paradigm, there's no explanation for them. So I think that's what we saw. I think that was actually taking place in that ancient earth. So the creation of Adam wasn't just, it carried even greater significance because it said, okay, now we're going to really do this the right way. We're going to make these beings directly in the image of God, which means that they have a connection that can put them on par, if not superior to angels, if it's at its fulfillment, right? And obviously, we see the Apostle Paul kind of even reference that. He says, "Don't you know that we shall judge angels?" So in our elevation through Christ, we can even be in a position to judge the fallen angels.
So you think it was kind of like the angels were kind of like ruling over the humanoid class, and like they were like subservient to them, and this was kind of like God leveling the playing field, so to speak. And you see all these little different, how science talks about all these, how Christians label it, pre-Adamite races, and one that stands out in my mind, because you have all these different subset classes they talk about, and one recent discovery is like the Denisovians up in Russia. They say they were, I can't remember, but it was extremely old, and they found jewelry, and they said that they were like beads and stuff that were so small, but they were precision drilled and all this kind of stuff. Do you think that that's what these people were, just remnants of some of these?
Exactly.
Okay.
And I think the distinction, again, Adam being made in God's image, and I think, it says God breathed directly into him, right? So, but I think I think those beings were occupying the ancient earth. It's about the kingdom of God manifesting on earth, which is God's ultimate plan. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done. But Satan has a rival kingdom. And this is about a battle, and God's seeking to show before the culmination, which is the war. I believe God is also trying to show and demonstrate to the angelic realm that his way is right. So Adam is the solution. He's also exhibit A, and humanity is exhibit A, that even though we're so much more spiritually ignorant than any angel, right? We don't get to see God. We don't get to go before his throne. We don't get to do any of those things. We don't get to even see anything in the spiritual realm, only glimpses that people get. We still find our way back to God. He uses, broken, sinful men and women, the prophets, to deliver messages. And somehow that's enough for the power of his word that we find our way back to him, groping in the darkness. I think God's proving this to show that he's allowing Satan to be the God of this world, was what Jesus calls him 3 times in the Gospels, right? And Jesus said, "This is not my kingdom, or my servants would fight." So he's saying, this kingdom doesn't belong to me. And I love that you mentioned the temptation in Luke 4 when Satan offers him all the kingdoms, because many people say that was a lie. That Satan was just lying to Jesus, saying when he said that I can give these kingdoms to whoever I want. They're delivered to me. I can give them to whoever I want to give them to. But one, if that was a lie, Jesus would know immediately. So he's not going to fool or trick Jesus. 2, if it wasn't true, then there's no temptation. It's like someone offering to sell you the Brooklyn Bridge. There's no temptation because they don't own the Brooklyn Bridge. It's a hustle. There's nothing to it. And so there wouldn't have been a temptation for Jesus to have if it wasn't being offered real power and a real kingdom. And so it really goes to the heart of what's happening here. And I think God is allowing this time to give Satan temporary authority, right? To say that this is, I can give this to whoever I want because I've now snatched it back from Adam, because he's proving something. He's proving that Satan's way will fail and is evil, and his way is right and true, and his word doesn't fail. And I think we even, again, going back to Paul, who received so much special revelation into the divine realm, he says that our salvation is something that angels look into. They're looking at this, they're observing, they are curious, they're researching it because there's something that God is revealing to them through this whole history that is human civilization, and how in our battle, that spiritual battle of God's believers on earth against the forces of evil that's taking place every day. God's not just redeeming us and saving us, he's also making his case to prove his word to the entire angelic realm. And so when Jesus comes back, there's no shadow of a doubt that he did everything he said he would, that his word never failed, and that his word is right and his way is right.
Yeah, amen. And Paul even said it too, as far as this birthright, this dominion, whatever kind of verbiage you want to attach to it, this power struggle, this Game of Thrones.
Yeah.
Paul said it, we traded the truth for a lie.
Yes.
We worship the created things instead of the creator.
Exactly.
It was ours to give away, and we gave it away.
Yep.
But Christ came back and took it back, and is going to take it back.
Yeah, and again, going to the repetition, that's why he is the last Adam. He's another Adam.
Yes.
Right? So everything, again, this idea of things happening over a cycle, that's why he's the last Adam. Because again, it's God is using Adam, even in his fall, even in his sin, to foreshadow what he's going to do to fulfill his plan of redemption.
Yep. And the last high priest too, because it talks about in Hebrews,
For sure. Yeah, absolutely. He is the last high priest. Yeah. Yeah. After the order of Melchizedek. So, and it's really interesting too, the idea of the king priest, right? Because Satan has the throne, but he also had the stones. He had both going on. So again, it's really, we get little glimpses into really how high ranking he was. And it talks about him being in the midst of the stone of fire. And, again, the Masoretic text says that he was a cherubim. I actually ascribe to the Septuagint text that talks about him saying he was with the cherubim. And I think that speaks to his position, because the cherubim, I believe, are creatures, just like we have elephants or whatever creature. I believe in heaven, again, they're more like heavenly realm creatures rather than the more human-like sons of God. And so, but they are at God's throne, right? God, they surround God's throne. God rides on cherubim. Wherever you see God appearing, especially in the book of Ezekiel, they're right under him. And so Satan's position being with the cherub speaks to him being, I believe, one of the high-ranking angels who get to be right at the throne of God. And if you think about it, it goes right back to the Gospels with John the Baptist. When Gabriel goes to speak to Zacchaeus, it announced, hey, your wife is going to give birth to the forerunner of the Messiah. And I'm sorry, Zacchaeus, Zacharias. Zacharias' father doesn't believe him. He doesn't believe him, of course. And Gabriel says, I am Gabriel who stands before the throne of God. So he's checking him. He's he's G-checking him. He's saying, look, you don't know who you're talking to. I'm one of the few who get to actually stand at the throne where the cherubim are and the stones of fire. And so that's why I'm going to, you're not going to speak now for the next 9 months, since you even tried to insult me like that.
Hey guys, what's happening? Hope you enjoyed that highlight reel. Hey, if you want the full conversation, be sure to go down to the description. I have links to the Spotify and Apple RSS feed. Go there, click the link. It'll take you to my RSS feed, and there you can enjoy the full conversation. Torch is high.